When she heard this voice, Elise trembled a little. She looked up at Zayden, who was standing in front. This grandpa had never seemed concerned about her since she was born. Zayden never even looked at her when she was born, because she was a girl. Now he was going to choose her husband and make a decision that would affect the rest of her life. Elise breathed heavily. She was angry and frustrated, and she opened her mouth to protest. But suddenly she saw Bill seated on his wheelchair shaking his head at her, begging her with his eyes. So she didn't say anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, after a selection process by our family, among the 10 wonderful applicants, we have chosen the best one to be Elise's husband. I hope everyone here will bless the new couple.
With that, everyone applauded. To Elise, this applause was mocking her. Or even pitying her. Her eyes were turning red, and she struggled to keep her tears from rolling down.
Dad, this is the man.
Jerome took out a beautifully designed card and passed it to Zayden. The name of their final choice was written on it. They had checked carefully already. This guy had no background to speak of, an orphan, over 30 years old, poorly educated, uncultured, no skills, and was homeless. You could say he could be considered a completely useless man. And he even suffered intermittent bouts of insanity. They heard that it was hereditary. If so, then after this man married Elise, on top of cutting the family business off from Elise, even her children could forget about taking a single cent from the Dawsons. Jerome looked at Elise and family seated in one area, and there was a moment of glee on his face.
Now I would like to announce our final choice.
Zayden was far-sighted and couldn't see clearly. So he narrowed his eyes and looked carefully at the card before announcing.
It's this lucky young man, John Crawford.
The moment the name was announced, everybody turned to look at the back door of the hotel. He was marrying into the family, so of course he could only walk in from the back door. The back door opened and a young man walked in. Bill and his wife couldn't bear to look. They knew that Jerome would definitely choose the worst man to be Elise's husband. But Elise turned to look. She wanted to see who would become her husband. John looked up and met her eyes, but neither said anything. He walked right across the hall, and everyone was looking at him. Strangely, the expression on his face seemed mocking, as well as somewhat malicious.
Ethan, congratulations for making it as Elise's husband and marrying into the Dawson family. You don't have to thank us, we just hope that you will take good care of Elise.
To him, John should be eternally grateful to the Palmers for giving a homeless orphan like him a home. Jerome walked over to Elise and gently took her hand, his face full of care and concern.
Come along, Elise.
He took Elise's hand and brought her in front of John, then placed her hand on John's hand. All the guests started clapping again when they saw this, as if they were attending a blissful engagement ceremony. But Bill and family knew that everyone was just laughing at them. By tomorrow, all of New Arkin would know that a man had married into the Dawson family as Elise's husband, and it was going to be the talk of the town. Elise's mind went blank, as if she had been completely emptied out. She couldn't seem to hear or see anymore, and didn't even know what time the banquet ended. Once the banquet ended, Mary immediately left crying, while Bill quickly rolled his wheelchair along after her. At the hotel entrance, a cold wind blew on her face and Elise came to her senses. She looked at John, who was standing next to her. Her face was expressionless, but her voice was hoarse.
Uncle, I don't blame you. You are to be pitied too.
John was 10 years older than her, so it seemed appropriate to call him uncle instead. John didn't say anything. He hadn't said a word all day. The person in front of him was that little girl from 15 years ago. She was still as kind as ever. She tolerated this situation and suffered this sort of bullying just so that her parents could live happily.
Oh ho, my dear cousin, congratulations.
Suddenly a man walked out from the entrance and smiled with his hands clasped together as he smiled.
Congrats on getting such an outstanding husband.
He purposely emphasized the word outstanding, and said it with great sarcasm. Elise frowned and bit her lips. She looked at Troy Dawson and clenched her fists.
My dad and the family worked hard over your marriage. Well, now that it's all settled and you have found someone, my uncle can be at peace too.
He didn't care about Elise going pale in the face and turned to throw a glance at John. This useless man was found by his father, Jerome. When he thought about the information they had on him, he couldn't resist laughing. So a man could be this useless.
To my new cousin-in-law, now that you've married into the Dawsons. You'd better be nice to my cousin here, quickly have kids, okay? It will make Grandpa happy too. No matter what your kid looks like, or even if you give birth to a retarded one, the Dawsons can afford to raise him.
Elise couldn't stand it anymore.
Troy, are you quite done?
Elise, I am just giving my blessings to you guys. Grandpa also said that he hopes that you guys will have kids soon. I think you will complete this mission tonight.
If they really had a retarded kid, that would be even funnier. Elise lifted a hand and Troy's face immediately darkened.
What? You want to hit me?
Elise bit her lips, angry and indignant. If she dared to hit the eldest grandson of the Dawsons, then tomorrow her family would be chased out of the family. To her grandfather, only grandsons were Dawson family members. She was not eligible. Troy became even more gleeful when he saw Elise put her hand down. Since they were young, only he got to bully Elise. Elise could only dream about taking advantage of him.
I am doing this for your own good. But you don't appreciate my good intentions.
Troy purposely sighed loudly.
Your father has been paralyzed for so many years. And your family would have starved to death long ago if the Dawson family didn't support you. Now we have taken so much effort to find you a husband and you are not just ungrateful but you also want to hit me. If Grandpa knows you tried to hit me, the consequences.
Elise started shaking. She looked at Troy with great fury. How could a person be this shameless? She turned to leave, but Troy blocked her way again.
Elise, this is Grandpa's decision. If you are not happy, go tell him.
Elise started crying from her indignation, and her anger had been pushed to its limit.
What do you want to do?
John suddenly broke his silence. Elise lifted her head and looked at John, and blurted out.
I want to give him a tight slap.
She had just finished talking, and there was a loud sound of a slap. Troy held his face as he collapsed on the ground, and he didn't even have time to shout. He only managed to react when he felt a burning sensation coming from his face. He was the one who got slapped. It was John who slapped him. Troy was stunned, and so was Elise. John dared to hit Troy? He was just a man who married into the family.
You.
Elise's face paled immediately from fright. Troy was going to kill John.
Why did you listen to me?
That's because you're my wife now.